What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we're here to talk about the actual super evolution of Gear 5. People have been waiting for this for so long. Since the initial release, they put out that post saying, hey, you better hold on, because Gear 5 is going to be super evolving. And since that moment, since the release of this unit, people have been saying every day, you know, what's Gear 5 going to do when he super evolves? And, I mean, this is the artwork. A lot of people, by the way, have been, you know, kind of dissing this artwork. I think this artwork looks really good, by the way. And while, yes, I do agree that it probably should have been the Bajrangang, whatever it's called, that is the special animation of this character. I can't wait to see what the animation is going to be like. But I do think the artwork probably should have been that. But despite that, I think this is really good because, you know, Gear 5 Luffy is a goofy character. And I feel like the artwork of this really fits the character in general. But we're not here to talk about the artwork. We're here to talk about the abilities of the unit itself. So shout out to Solaris, who has been data mining like crazy today with all of the new stuff that has been data mined. So we're going to talk about Gear 5 Luffy, but just a little bit of a refresher as to what this Luffy does. I know many people already know, but there are some big changes that happen here with this unit. So obviously with the original form of Gear 5 Luffy, you could actually have him transform, and the ability to revive once per quest is such a huge thing with this character. And then when you become Gear 5, you have the ability to bypass defensive effects and barriers with your normal attacks, which is a massive, massive buff that this character gets access to. But you also get a health cut at the end of every single turn with a 6x attack boost, but it's only to sign free spirit. So this unit is very strong, and I mean this ability as well, being able to resist 10 turns of bind and 10 turns of special reverse. So I'm just picking out key points of the original form of Luffy, just so you know how much different this new form of Luffy actually is. We move on now to, I mean, even the crewmate ability, this is going to change. The special ability gets a pretty big overhaul as well, as this character would do 2 million fixed damage, give you a big color affinity boost to sign free spirit, and then he would say that you get a full board of psi slots. If you're in the Gear 5 state when you launch the special, you get the orb boost as well. And then you've got the EX effect, which changes the multiplier of psi and recovery to a 3x multiplier instead of a normal 2x multiplier, which is a massive difference, transforming into the Gear 5 state. And then both psi and free spirit will become super versions of psi and super free spirit. So again, as I said, I'm just picking out key points here. I think the support effect stays the same, and the potential ability stay the same. The rush effect, I'm pretty sure, to my knowledge, stays the exact same as well. The condition will change slightly, which we'll talk about. And then in PvP, the character actually gets some pretty interesting changes. So we'll talk about all of that as we get into the Gear 5 Luffy. The artwork is not here yet, but of course it is this guy, Monkey D. Luffy. This is the new 6+. This unit is a Psi Free Spirit fighter. They did state that the character was not changing type or classes, and they held true to that, which is correct. But we move on to the captain ability. Now this is already where things change dramatically. Reduces cooldown of all characters by 2 turns at the start of the fight. Thank God. This character has such a high cooldown, and we found through using that normal Gear 5 that it would take forever to use that special when you're not using him in boosted content. So I like the fact that he gives -2 cooldown at the start of the fight. That's wicked. Boosting the attack by 6 times when slots match, 5.5 otherwise. You notice something about this. This does not state psi or free spirit. This is a rainbow 6 times captain when you have a matching slot. That's just so crazy. 1.35 health. Completely removes despair. So this is you know, akin to Legend Roger, who does the exact same thing. He then makes strength, dex, psi, quick, int, recovery, tandem slots have matching slot effects for himself only. And then he says, if every type is on the crew, makes his own normal attacks super effective against all types, and makes special effects with types or class restrictions affect all characters on the crew, excluding certain restrictions like certain positions on the crew, rarities, cost, or certain characters when you launch the special. So this is crazy. Obviously massively different from the original Gear 5 Luffy. 6-star Luffy, as we've already touched up on, had a revive mechanic, had the Gear 5 switching effect where you could become Gear 5, become the ability where you could go through defensive effects with normal attacks, and obviously had the ability to remove bind and special reverse. So this is a massive shift, completely different design, now having the ability to remove despair, cooldown reduction, so he is faster, all of these slots, he's basically always going to have a matching slot. And then if you have one of every color on the crew, which is the big thing, if you're using 6+ Luffy, you do want one of every color so that he becomes rainbow effective, and you get this really cool effect which we haven't seen since the introduction of Luffy crew into the game, where if you use an attack boost that's only for strength units, it now is an attack boost for all characters instead. So it's a pretty big shift. Now, the other thing that I don't actually know at this point is, does this effect work on super tandems? Because if that is the case, this is going to be even better. Like, imagine using some other random super tandem that normally is only restricted to certain classes or colors, but you can use that super tandem for the whole crew. Like, that just sounds so insane to me. And if that does work, then boy oh boy, this is going to be a lot of fun to use this character in content. So this is the thing that a lot of people are going to ask, and I'll probably make a separate video on it, is like, which Gear 5 Luffy is better? And I mean, I don't think there's a definitive answer. I mean, again, I'll talk about it in another video, but the thing is like, they're just so different from each other. It's actually really hard to compare them, because this is like a whole different character. This is a lot different from when Yamato super evolved, and you know, Yamato she is slightly better, obviously, but you had just one for int and driven, and you had one for Psi-Free Spirit, completely different. But this is like legitimately like two completely different units in almost every way. So this is interesting. It's a very good captain ability, no doubt. This character as a captain is one of the best captains in the game, and I'm really glad that they now have a good reward for building one of every type in your crew. You know, we had like Super Tandem Sengoku come out, and he had that really annoying ability where you needed to have one of every color in your crew just to get a slightly higher attack boost, and this is really dumb. Whereas this guy now, you get rainbow damage and the ability to make every special work for all characters, which is pretty dope, right? So yeah, this is going to be interesting moving forward. So let's move on from the captain ability. Crewmate ability, boost base attack HP and recovery by 150 and make Psi recovery slots beneficial. That's really good. That's a really good crewmate ability. And then reducing cooldown of all characters by 1 at the start of the fight if you're using him as a sub. So that's really strong too. Now, the special ability is also drastically different here. So the special deals 300 times his attack and non-type damage to all enemies. So instead of doing 2 million fixed damage to one target, it's 300 times his attack to everyone. So he's still a damage dealing special, which is good. He changes the attack multiplier of Strength X Quick, Psi Int, Recovery, and Tandem slots to 2.75. So basically, if you have any of these other natural slots, he just makes them become better than a Wano slot, which is pretty strong, obviously. That's a very good effect. And I like the fact that he still does it for Tandem slots too, so you can still abuse Super Tandem in some way. So I like that. And then he says, if your crew has an attack boost when you launch the special, boost orb effects by 3x for 1 turn, and further increase your attack buff by 0.25. But then he says, he boosts your attack by 3x for 1 turn, and then boost the orbs by 0.25 otherwise. So essentially, if you have no buffs when you launch the special, you're getting an attack boost and buffing any orb boost that you have. But if you already have an attack boost, then you get a big orb boost, and then you get an attack buff, or a buff on your attack boost instead. So he is a reduced redundancy style special, whilst also dealing damage, which is kind of whatever, but then also making all of these natural slots become higher multipliers that you can abuse is really strong. Because while in normal pieces of content, you probably want to abuse Wano slots, because Wano slots have the highest natural multiplier in the game, and they obviously cannot be manipulated by the enemy. And still, being able to avoid the slot manipulation stuff, that is still a very key component of Wano slots. But I think that this is still, generally speaking, is going to be absolutely insane, as you can just make these naturally occurring slots become even better than a Wano slot. So it just means your damage goes up significantly. So again, quite a different special from Gear 5, as you had that affinity and orb boosting special, and now this is like reduced redundancy, where you can get a buff, and if you've already got that buff, you can get a different buff instead, whilst also buffing the original one that you had. So I like it. I think that this design is okay. It's not a broken special by any means, but it's a solid special that, considering he aims to be a rainbow captain, a special such as this is good. And the fact that this is a special that gives an attack or an orb boost to any character in the game. It's a rainbow orb boost or a rainbow attack boost. That's the big thing too. The way that it stands right now, this character basically is like a buffed Legend Roger, right? He's essentially a better version of Roger. Now we move on to his super special, and the super special says that you need to have any 3 of the following characters on the crew. So that's kind of harsh, but it's one of the Straw Hats, Yamato, Law, Kid, or Momo. So the super special is still kind of average in terms of the restriction that is applied to the crew, because if you have to have 3 of these units on the crew, as well as try to build one of every color on your crew, that could be a bit of an issue, I can see for sure. But the effect itself applies increased damage taken status to all enemies for 2 times for 1 turn. That's obviously very strong. It doesn't go through immunity to status effects though. If it did, oh my god, this unit might be the best legend in the game. But of course they had to nerf it in some capacity. It doesn't go through immunity, which is a bit of a shame, but at the same time, if it did, it would just be way too much, I think. But this is a really cool thing as well. He changes all slots, including block and super block slots, into matching, locking them for 1 turn, and changes all characters into super type. So this is massive, right? This is the first character in the game that has a special that can remove super block slots, right? You have Nami Robin dual unit with their switch ability. That's not really removing super block, it's just, I guess in a way it is removing them. But this is the first character that says specifically in their special, removing super block slots. You change super block and block into matching, lock them for a turn, and then every single color, again, first time in the game we've seen this, that one character can give super typing to all characters on your crew, which works perfectly with this character aiming to have one of every character on the crew in terms of type. So this is very strong. Again, basically a buffed version of Legend Roger is the way that I see it. So the character is pretty good, right, in normal content, but it is vastly different from Gear 5 Luffy. No revive, doesn't resist bind anymore, doesn't resist special reverse anymore, and the EX super, or it's just a super type at this point, it doesn't give a super class buff, whereas, you know, the original Gear 5 gave a free spirit and a psi buff. This is only to colors, so you don't get a statistical increase from super type, for example. So that could be a bit of an issue, but I can already see a character like Rush Sugo Sanji would work perfectly under this guy. He fulfills one of the conditions, as well as Sanji giving all of those different chain buffs. You can switch him into the captain position, use his super class to give super free spirit. That's already one way to enhance the team composition of using Gear 5 Luffy with his 6+. So I do like what they're doing so far. I like that he is vastly different, and the way that I see it right now, this is a character you want to max out. You want to actually have this one, the 6+ version, the one that you want to rainbow, and then ideally you have a secondary Gear 5 Luffy that you keep as a 6-star form, just in case you need that captain ability of revival, or bypassing defensive effects, or dealing with bind or special reverse. Having access to that is nice, but you actually want this guy to be your main guy that is completely rainbowed out, mainly due to that Rush Sugo special, which of course can be used in full use here, because with his Rush Sugo special being so self-focused, you can have it be a rainbow damage, right? A rainbow damaging Rush Sugo special, as we've already touched up on. Like, this is the thing that I talked about when we first saw what his Rush Sugo special did, is the fact that it only gives himself the boost. And this doesn't really make sense unless if he had an ability to give himself rainbow damage, and now he has that. So the Rush Sugo special now actually makes sense. Now, in terms of the Rush Sugo, the condition has changed, where it has to be on the last stage, which is the same as before, but you need to be doing the 6th tap, is the same as before, but then you need to have 2 of the following characters on the crew. So it's not as harsh as his super type special, but you still need to fulfill the condition, the Straw Hats, Law, Kid, Yamato, Momo. But the actual effect of the rush is the exact same, so there's no real complaints from me there. I get why they've built it in this way, but Rush Sugo specials that are focused on one character by themselves, they're going to be outdated relatively quickly compared to other Rush Sugo specials, in my opinion. But it is what it is. We'll move on. Let's talk about his PvP stuff, because he's really good in PvP still. So we have a look at his resistances. He now evades special bind and half stats. I believe before he actually resisted damage over time. He did not resist half stats before, so that is a big change to this unit, as well as the 30% damage reduction, which is unchanged. His rumble ability now buffs Free Spirit, which I believe beforehand he buffed Psi units. So this is a big change. Free Spirit, attack 6, defense 6, speed 6, critical 6, and revives himself one time at 100% health. This is a big difference. The fact that you could have this guy fully revive is nuts. I believe previously he would revive at 50% HP, and now he goes it to 100%. This is going to be such an annoying character to deal with in Pirate Rumble, man. I don't like where this is going. We move on to his Rumble special at level 10. Targets enemies in a large horizontal range for 5,000 fixed damage. I believe it was 4,500 before. And then he targets Free Spirit teammates for level 5 attack for 30 seconds. And then targets one enemy with high HP, ignoring defense for 2 times attack damage. That's crazy. Again, I believe beforehand, I think it was it 1.5 damage before? It was 1.5, so that's a big difference. 4,500 before, and you can see here, yeah, he was giving buffs to Psi instead, 50% revive. So again, they're just taking what he did and making it so much better in Pirate Rumble, and it extends to his Grand Party. And you can see his Grand Party, his special for 2 uses. He ignores defense for 2.65 times damage. Beforehand, it was like 2.4, so that goes up to 2.65. He has higher statistics with the Super Evolution, so he just does more damage. Then Strength, Dex, Psi, you get attack speed 10, increased defense level 5, and removing half stats for a duration of 30 seconds. And all of his buffs are just better. And even the condition, beforehand you had to do 60,000 damage, now it's only 55,000 damage. So again, just across the board, this is why I'm saying this is the version of Luffy you want to invest your dupes and copies into, because having this guy rainbowed out in PvP is so much more broken. But you still want another version of Luffy, because you can even still run 6-star Luffy on a Psi team, and you can run this guy on a Free Spirit team if you want. You could literally have these 2 versions of Luffy on 2 separate teams, because they've got 2 separate ID numbers in the game. So that's one of the other crazy things about it, is the fact that this character, even in the base 6-star form, is still really good in PvP, but you can still fully abuse this guy as well. So Gear 5 Luffy, he is a lot better in a lot of ways, but he's just different. So the way that it stands right now is this is a character you want to have multiple copies of. You do want that, but I do think in terms of high-end damage dealing content, this guy is going to be good in almost every way against everything, because of the fact that if you build a team with one of every color, you can just do rainbow damage against everything. And this guy has a special that can give you an ult boost or an attack boost for whatever you want. He does remove despair, but he doesn't remove every debuff. So that's the thing as well, is because you can just run him in a hybrid sense if you want, because he is a rainbow captain. It doesn't really matter what your friend captain is, so long as you can fulfill some conditions to make sure Luffy is still doing good damage. Just overall, Gear 5 Luffy seems to be one of the best legends in the game. He seems insane. He's probably one of the best Rumble units in the game. Definitely top 3 best Rumble units right now. He's a beast. Gear 5 Luffy is a very good Super Evolution. I'm actually pretty content with what they've done with the Super Evolution. He's a faster captain to use now, fully rainbow now, rather than just Psi and Free Spirit. And I'm very much excited to see what his animations are going to be like, and I really want to use this guy in content. But let me know your thoughts and opinions about Gear 5 Luffy Super Evolution down below in the comment section. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and if you guys did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.